What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of the Kingdom Says. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams. Tonight, we've got a full house in the building. Something that we haven't seen in quite some time. We've got a lot of faces here tonight joining us. First and foremost, let's not waste no more time. Mr. Kyle Henning is back. Kyle, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm here to try to hold everybody on here accountable. It's been a little some miscommunication and some mental errors the last few podcasts that I've been watching from the sidelines. So back in the building to hold everybody accountable and really make sure that things are done accountably around here. So
accountability is a big word in recent Chiefs circles. So glad to have you back, Kyle. Also like that your handle is right in the middle of your name on your lower third. It's kind of a fun twist on the matter. You know, it's kind of cool.
I don't know why I did that because I didn't even leave my last name in there.
I don't know why
it literally just says Kyle and the handle when the display stuff. But apparently it wanted to.
You're an innovator. You're an innovator, man. I'm telling you.
We're just trying new things. It got your attention at least.
Exactly. I noticed that as I was introducing you. I was like, you know what? I respect it. Also joining us, Mr. Randy Ellenberger in the bottom left of the screen. How you doing tonight, Randy?
I'm doing well. It's we're going to be having some conversations about stuff we're not usually used to talking about at this time of the year, about a lot of different things that typically aren't also things we talk about. So it should be a fun and interesting little show, and I am just excited to hang out with you fine gentlemen for the evening.
Heck yeah. Excited.
Are we talking about puppies?
We can.
No puppies.
We can. I mean, that's definitely possible. Do you have a puppy to add to the conversation, Kyle, or...
No, he's currently locked out of the room at the moment.
I'm going to say, I think mine's sleeping over here somewhere.
Mine is very thick, and I'm afraid that if I pick him up, he will poop.
No, don't got to work him out. Also joining us, Mr. Arrowhead Tom, of course. Tom, how you doing tonight?
I am good. I'm excited to have a full house back. We'll see how much... I'm going to make Kyle work for that accountability comment. We're going to see just how far off the rails we can get tonight. I'm doing good. Other than, like I said, my dog's got a little tummy ache.
The Scout's not doing good. Is Kiara doing good? The cat?
Yeah, she's chilling. She's living her best life. But
a new addition to the Kingdom's universe. That was cool. Yeah.
Yeah. My cat made her podcast debut, and there's been a lot of changes around here recently, and change seems to be the theme of the week.
What is that noise? And Randy, is that your dog gonna make that?
That is my dog, apparently dying of thirst at the moment.
I was like, it sounds like a dog is just lapping up water right now. Oh, there's Kiara on top.
Yeah, here she is.
And then Randy's dog is also in the room. We got a full house. We're as loaded up as we possibly can be on this show today, and it's for good reason. There's a lot of exciting things to talk about. Like Randy said, we usually are not talking about this type of stuff very early, or even really ever, because the main topic of this show is going to be coaching changes, which the Chiefs really haven't seen a lot of the past couple years. It's been the kind of the same cast going on for at least the past 3 years or so, with Matt Nagy as OC and a couple other these position coaches and whatnot. And it's a new leaf. There's a new order, a new old order, you could say, coming back to KC here, and a lot of changes already coming, and still probably some more changes on the horizon. But enough that we're gonna definitely talk about it. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right into this thing with the biggest piece of news. Coming out of the coaching search for the Chiefs. The Chiefs have it's been pretty much agreed to. It's not super finalized yet, but it is pretty much confirmed that Eric Bieniemy, who served this year as the Bears running back coach, also a former Chiefs offensive coordinator and former Commanders offensive coordinator, former UCLA. He did something at UCLA. But anyways, Eric Bieniemy back as the Chiefs offensive coordinator after the Bears season ended. That was a very quick interview. I don't even know if there was really an interview. I think Andy Reid just kind of gave EB a call and said, "Hey, buddy, here's the spot back for you. Welcome back to Kansas City."
Welcome back.
And a move that we talked about on here as one that was probably more to be expected, judging by the fact that Andy Reid is very loyal to his guys and is very kind of set in his ways. And as much as we all kind of wanted to maybe see, or at least some of us wanted to see maybe big sweeping offensive changes with new a whole new outside guy, whole new scheme, all that type of stuff. Realistically, it was never going to really happen that way. Instead, Eric Bieniemy returns after having spent some time in different places. He's gotten some chances to broaden his horizon a little bit, get a little more coaching knowledge from his various different stops. Most notably, this past year with Chicago, like I mentioned, as the Bears running back coach, which DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai over there had 2 really good seasons, and serving under Ben Johnson, who is a really, really hot offensive mind in the world, who's doing a lot of things that are a lot different than KC's scheme. And they had a very successful year over there. So now they're bringing back EB to fill in the spot left vacant by Matt Nagy. And there's more coaching changes on top of that as well. But we'll start with EB. Kyle, making your Kingdom Says return to a real good one. How do you feel about this move?
This was decided, and I guess Diana Rossini kind of tweeted this, but they've been working on this in the works for several weeks now. I mean, there were things that, Patrick told you who the offensive coordinator was going to be in his press conference like a week ago. Andy told you somewhat in his press conference a while, like in not so many, like, I know a lot of people don't watch the press conferences, and that's fine. I get it. Most of it is completely useless or not very informative to most people. But when you've watched as many press conferences as I have, which has been basically every single press conference for the last 10 years now, you get really used to when Andy is saying things without actually saying things. He has ways of making statements that he didn't tell you squat, but he told you what he wanted you to understand. You just have to listen. And Patrick does the same thing because they do that coach speak, quarterback speak thing. But Patrick said the word accountability roughly 7 times in the interview the other day. Discipline and show up every day, and it's all accountability. It's just rephrased versions of the word accountability. And so, I'm not surprised. I'm happy EB is back. I think he'll be just fine. Look, man, it's always been Andy's baby, right? But Andy does so many things that he needs somebody to help make sure everything gets taken care of with the baby. And for whatever reason, some of those things haven't been getting taken care of the last couple of years. There's been an egregious amount of conversation about recurring themes of penalties and drop. Guys, remember when everybody couldn't catch a cold 12, 14 months ago and they were dropping every ball that hit their hands, and then they went to the Super Bowl? The drops and stuff didn't really get fixed. The route, Xavier Worthy still has trouble knowing where the sideline is. That's a detail that should probably be worked on by a coaching staff. And those things weren't occurring. That stuff will be taken care of with Eric Bieniemy. Juwan Taylor, if he somehow still finds a way to be on this roster, is going to. I almost want him to be still on this roster with a restructured deal or whatever, just so that the first time he takes one of those penalties and they go back to the sideline, and that big monstrosity of a human being has Eric Bieniemy at his waistline, just like you mother. And the visual image of that interaction, it's the Chihuahua and the Great Dane scenario where it's okay, just because look, man, people have however you feel about Eric Bieniemy is however you feel. Some people have done the flippy floppy thing where they wanted to never see him again 2 years ago, and now he's gonna save everybody. There's those who just can't stand him or can't blame him still from the past. The past where they won Super Bowls and had one of the best offenses in the league.
Really good.
Yeah, he was terrible.
That's MVP season.
Yeah. But he was the problem, and then he needed to go. And some people still hold him accountable for the Bengals game, which in 21, no, guys, that was not Eric Bieniemy's fault. And stuff like that. Or you have the people that always loved him and didn't like that he left. there's those three camps, but like wherever you fall, he has certain things that are undeniable. Energy, dedication, detail-oriented, almost drill sergeant-ish behavior in some episodes. Ask Shady McCoy; he's still complaining about him, kind of in his own way.
Some people don't
getting
like
his ass chewed.
Like
but
Shady.
The other thing he does, we've been bitching about the run game for 2 years. You know the other thing he does pretty damn well? Coach running backs.
Really good, yeah. Former running back.
Draft you two draft guys. Can anybody tell me where Kyle Monungai went to college?
Rutgers.
Can anybody tell me where he was drafted?
7th round.
Was he drafted?
I think so.
7th round?
I think he was another 7th rounder.
The 7th round running back. Hey, Isaiah Pacheco.
Rutgers, 7th round.
Huh.
Draft class was 22. EB's last year here.
When did Isaiah Pacheco have a pretty good year?
Rookie year. Rookie year had pretty good year, and the second year before his injuries. But
hey, do you guys remember running backs named Darrell Williams and Damian Williams and Isaiah Pacheco and Jet McKinnon as a backfield duo? And there's like 6 other random running backs you can throw in there that you just want to pick from that they got production out of. It's not an accident. So at minimum, he gives you a guy they're familiar with. It's still Indy's offense. So it's still Indy's offense. He gives you a guy you're familiar with. He gives you things you know he does well. He gives you a running game improvement that has been a big-ass problem for the last 2 years. And he just spent a year with Ben Johnson. You can say he's part of Andy's tree. He is. That's fine. But he also went out and new ideas. He was in Washington. He was in UCLA, which that didn't go so hot, but that's not really his fault if you know who the head coach of that team was.
Bum program.
Well, you know who's running that outfit, don't you?
Doesn't matter. They're bums. Fight on.
His name is Kelly. That's who was at UCLA with Eric, I believe, was Chip Kelly.
Yeah,
was the head coach at the time. How's that going? Didn't he get fired from the Raiders like 4 weeks in, like after he lost the UCLA job or whatever?
He did, a lot of money too.
Okay, so I'm not really gonna hang that one on Eric Bieniemy's feet that the UCLA's offense sucked because Chip Kelly was the guy there running it, even though Eric was the OC. Yeah. He's been really good in Chicago, as Garrett mentioned. Guys, he was never hiring Mike. We've talked about this. Guys that called their own plays and ran their own offensive system are not coming to work for Andy Reid's. Why would they do that? Guys that are established even got head coaching opportunities out of it. Why would they go and work at a place where the first thing that everybody says is they don't even do anything. They don't even call plays. They don't do anything. Well, clearly they do something because the team ran a certain way when Eric Bieniemy was here. And the team ran a totally different way when Matt Nagy was here.
Yeah, it's a position that it's not.
I don't dislike Matt Nagy, but you can tell that they do something around here because the changes. So I think I'm not surprised at all. I'm happy he's back. I think he's going to end up cleaning out more than we thought as far as like the actual staff goes. And yes, some of that is also Andy, I'm sure, involved in that. But Eric, I'm sure, has a say because you didn't bring him back to just keep using the same people that Nags had in there. Yeah. And again, it's Andy's thing, but a lot of this was change that was needed. And we always knew that pretty much the offensive coordinator was going to be inside Andy's window. But a lot of these position coach changes are going to be the most interesting part to watch. So I'm happy EB's back. I didn't like that he left the way he did. I'd have preferred he stayed. I know why he left, but I would have rather he stayed the first time. But I'm happy he's back, man.
I'm with you because
he didn't leave because he wasn't a good offensive coordinator. He left because nobody would give him a head coaching job.
Right. And the way I look at it is like, Andy, we all knew Andy was going to try to bring somebody back. I think the last time I was on, I thought it was going to be like Mike Kafka. I thought it was going to be like a younger, somebody from the tree type deal. But the way I look at it, like Andy Reid and Nagy and Bieniemy, they're like, every group of buddies has that one friend, who's Matt Nagy, who's just like super nice, tries to be friends with everybody, just kind of goes along with what everybody else does, and he's kind of the brown noser dipshit that we always just kind of keep around. And then there's always that buddy in your group too, who's
I was with you loyal. Until the last part.
who's super loyal, but he's also kind of a dick, and he'll push back a little bit on some things. And I think that's what we needed. Like Nagy was just like, oh yeah, we're just gonna do what Andy does. We're just gonna keep doing blah 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 blah. And now Bieniemy is here, and he's gonna be like, no, that's a stupid fucking idea. We're gonna do something else. Like we need some.
He's gonna be sitting on the handset. Andy, run the ball for the love of God. Run the ball.
Exactly. Like Nagy was just going with the flow, and now Bieniemy's gonna be like, nah, we need to do something different. We're not gonna do that again. We're gonna run the ball. And like you said too, he's a little bit more of that drill sergeant. He's an old school, fiery, disciplined, detail oriented guy with a proven track record. And you're right. It's like he didn't leave because he was pushed out because he sucked. Yeah, he left because he wanted an opportunity to run his own show, and that just never evolved for him for whatever reason, and probably because he is an old school, abrasive kind of dude. There's always the rumors that he didn't interview well and he was too brash and abrasive, whatever it might be. But the dude can coach ball, and we've had an issue with being too nice, too soft, undisciplined, not detail oriented enough, not coached hard enough. I mean, bring a dude who's gonna you're gonna get the back of the hand if you're not paying attention. Like, get in the room, watch the film, make changes, and stop making the same mistakes over and over and over again. So I'm with you. I'm happy EB is back. I think it's going to bring an edge back. And since he's left, our run game has really suffered. Like, it has just gotten soft. I can't stand our run game. I don't know how many times you guys have heard me say that.
Yeah.
But just schematically, it's awful for the guys that we have on our roster. So, but and he's going to bring in some guys who are going to coach hard too, and guys hopefully that are experienced in the positions that they're going to coach. That's a big deal. Like,
that would be nice.
You can't have a scrub running back who never carried the ball other than a couple of kick returns coaching wide receivers. Like, that's not going to happen under EB.
Like a whole lot to ask for, but it seems like a lot to ask for.
I would like to clarify that. Right. I would also like to clarify that. Not scrub running back at the NFL level.
Scrub running back
that couldn't play for KU.
Where they don't even really play football.
When they sucked. Like, when they really sucked. Not like lately when they've been actually somewhat okay. Yeah. He played there when they were winning, like, no games a season.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and he wasn't contributing to the wins or losses. He was just there.
Fired wide receiver coach Connor Embry is who they're referring to.
Yes.
Is for those who are not tapped in enough. Yeah, that's true. Tom, what are your thoughts on EB?
I think we talked a lot about who could come into that position, and it's always fun to dream. And I think I'm maybe more inclined to get excited about the what ifs and the could be's.
You're just a dreamer.
One of the things that, as I listened and just kind of read that, so here's the thing: Andy Reid doesn't fire a lot of coaches. That's his one of his fatal flaws has been he's been very loyal. Now he'll let a contract expire. He'll let a guy retire, and then
Matt Nagy contract expired.
Yeah. You can count. Yeah, we can probably count on one hand how many people have been fired, and it's important that that's the language that was used. We've said, okay, well, it's Andy's offense. But here's the thing. This hasn't looked like Andy's offense in several years. And as we've been talking about things and talking through it, and what does Bieniemy bring and what does somebody else bring, and I think a big piece of that is you have guys on game day who aren't prepared. You have guys lining up wrong. You have guys, running the wrong routes. You have guys dropping the ball, fumbling the ball. You have running backs who are missing holes. You have the penalty issues. And as much as somebody may be concerned about, this would be same old, all that type of stuff. If there's one thing I can tell you about Eric Bieniemy's offense, when he takes the field, when that team takes the field on game day, is it's going to be ready. They're going to be prepared. And there's a benefit there because that allows Andy to do what Andy does best, which is be the play caller and be the mad scientist and make those big decisions. I think, again, with some of the other issues, I am curious how many times there was a moment in the headset or in Andy's mind where he wanted to run a certain play or try something and he didn't because they weren't ready. They weren't prepared. The wide receivers weren't ready. The running backs weren't, playing where they needed to be, all that stuff. When you talk about this offensive struggle, we want to, finger point at one person or whatever, but it's there were different parts of that unit that just weren't ready. And when we talk about accountability, right? And I went on a little tweet rambling about this. Like Andy is a very much CEO type of coach in a lot of ways. He just like he trusts Spagnuolo to take care of the defense, right? He essentially just trusting his offensive coordinator to take care of his coaches, make sure the position coaches are doing what they're supposed to be doing, making sure that those guys are ready. And I think I think that the lack of accountability within the coaches was an evident thing, right? When you're not ready on game day, it shows up. When you're not well prepped and when you're not well coached, after Embry was fired, there was a report.
Oh, Tom froze.
I mean, to his point, like
I did freeze.
Oh, he's back. He's back.
He's back.
All right.
He's back. The report that said, sorry guys, the report that said, that the receivers were frustrated and that, Travis Kelce and DeAndre Hopkins had been doing more coaching than Embry and have been helping out the younger players. That's not what you want to hear when you've got a first round pick and a second round pick, two guys who have a lot of potential. That's not the type of environment you want. If anything, it sounds like maybe Andy or even by proxy, maybe even Matt Nagy just held on too long to a mistake. And I'm not saying that to be harsh. I'm saying that to just be honest with the information we have and the reports that were made. So I'm not necessarily excited to have Eric Bieniemy, the play caller, right, back. I'm excited to have Eric Bieniemy, the leader, the organizer, the hammer, the counterweight that will then free up Andy to do Andy things.
Well, so and here's the other piece. He has the resume. Like he not only does he have the resume, but he has the resume with this franchise, with this quarterback, with this head coach. Like Eric can walk in and put rings on the table that he has from that building, from doing that job. And there's not a lot of offensive coordinators that can walk in and put their hand on the table and have a ring on it. Especially not with the same franchise he's walking back into, with the quarterback who, I hate to be the one to point this out to everybody, but clearly wanted him back.
That's the biggest thing I think about when you bring back EB is how much the players liked him. Obviously Pat is Pat is going to be a huge part of the process. And a lot of people were very upset about the fact that they didn't really interview like anybody else for the job. Let it be clear, if Patrick Mahomes did not feel even one bit that EB wasn't the great guy, even if he was like, hey, maybe we should just at least interview some guys, just to see. Like Pat would have made that obvious and they would have done it. But obviously, like from the top down, Andy, Pat, Brett Veach, everyone realized this is the good fit. Like we want to work with this guy again. We're comfortable with this guy. He has a really good resume with us in the building. That's kind of part of the thing that kind of hampered him from getting a lot of opportunities elsewhere. Really, the Chiefs know him best, right? Like they know his work ethic more than like he can display in any kind of little, coaching interview or whatnot. Like you have to be around the guy to experience how much of an impact that he brings on a day-to-day basis. And obviously it's a situation like Pat was very comfortable working with him. There's been a lot of former players that have come out. Travis Kelce has said lots and lots of very favorable things as far as Nagy. Infamously, Jamal Charles had a lot of good things to say about Eric Bieniemy early in his career. Like, there's just the players are cool with it, and the players like it. That's the biggest thing. Not to say they weren't necessarily cool with Nagy, but like, it's a difference when they're like hammering the table for you, being like, hey, this guy has meant so much to my career, and he is such, he holds us accountable, gets us ready on game days. Like, there's so much more to it than just, and that's why I think a lot of people are kind of upset because they don't understand what an offensive coordinator necessarily does. Offensive coordinator, being a play caller, is only a very, very small part of the job. And we talked about it a lot on here. I know Tom had a really good post on X a couple weeks ago about it. Like, there's a lot that goes into the offensive coordinator job. And the biggest thing is the preparation aspect, getting guys on the same page, bringing ideas to the table. And it's pretty favorable that he's now been in different locations the past few years. So he has more experience with different offenses, different coordinators, different like position groups. Like, it's not just one thing where like you're going to a different team and you're just, when he was the offensive coordinator in Washington, like, you're learning from a lot of different guys who are in that building, all the different position coaches. You're going to the Chicago this year and having all the experience learning there. Like, he's broadening horizons. So even though you're not necessarily bringing in a whole overhaul of new ideas and stuff like that, he's bringing back a lot of knowledge of other schemes and systems that have worked. And now he can add that on top of what he already knows with Andy and everybody. And so you can kind of just evolve Andy's offense instead of just creating a whole new offense. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a big differentiator, because Andy's not just going to give up the keys to the kingdom that easily, But if he can bring in a guy who knows his offense, but also knows other teams' offenses and knows how to take that next step forward, on top of all the other things that the offensive coordinator does, like all the other things we've mentioned, and like, that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest reason that this is a good hire. And for people who are still concerned about it, like, it's not going to be the same thing where it's like, oh, he's just going to be a sounding board to Andy Reid. It's going to look exactly the same. Like, it's been a little bit of time that Eric Bieniemy has been able to experience and learn and grow. And he's a much different personality than Matt Nagy is, that he's going to actually, he's not afraid to stand up at the table and put some new ideas out there. He's going to hold these guys accountable, and he has the track record to do that. It's not like he's going to a new place and he's trying to hold these guys accountable and yelling at them and all this stuff, and they don't really know him. Like, all these guys know him, and they know, despite all the yelling and harping on him and everything like that, like, it comes from a place of love and passion and desire for everybody to get better. So that's the biggest thing when the news came to me, and when people were very confused, like, they're not even going to interview anybody else. Like, if they wanted to, if they weren't 100% sold on this being the right answer, and they're, like I said, they're probably thinking about this for many, many weeks. This is, people also kind of forget, like, back in 2023, that AFC Championship game in Baltimore, they brought Eric Bieniemy in to speak to the team, and the team was like, man, that was a crazy powerful speech that really, like, motivated him over the top. Like, ain't nobody saying that about Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy never once walked into the room and be like, man, that was an inspirational speech. That really gets me going, like, not really to discredit. I mean, it's kind of being harsh on Nagy, but like, that's just the difference that
they're different personality types.
Yeah.
That's different personality types. It's like Randy mentioned earlier. So to Garrett's point, Travis Kelce brought Eric Bieniemy up unprompted like 3 months ago on New Heights, out of absolutely nowhere. Eric Bieniemy got mentioned on that podcast. That was something I noticed. The Mahomes press conference, like a week or so, like right the first time we heard from him after his knee, like, that was something we noticed. There's so many things with that, but to your point about the players, don't be surprised if Travis being involved next year had something to do with this also.
And if it did, Travis loves heavily influence him. He's much more likely to come back if EB's their coach as opposed to some random, that he doesn't know.
And so, but to Tom's point, and to what you were discussing with the offensive coordinator process or role and what it means, coaching coaches is part of that. Like, keeping your running back room and your quarterback coach and your on board. I want to bring up, and I don't know how many of our audience will remember. I'm sure some will. There was an article that came out after the Super Bowl against the Eagles.
Which one?
And there were some quotes by the coaching staff in some of these position coaches.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
That had some of us looking around going, what?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean?
Yeah. You remember some of those quotes were, Kyle? I remember some of those quotes, yeah. Remember some quotes being like they were afraid to coach
Coaching Patrick Mahomes is scary.
To waste his year and stuff like that. Yeah.
There were things about they weren't prepared as well. Like they weren't prepared how they wanted to be was, I think, part of that conversation. And then also, when the players that you're playing against on other teams feel comfortable enough to tell you that you have tells and they'll tell you what they are and they think they'll still be there later when they need them, says a lot of things, not necessarily great things.
Yeah, I mean, Pat said in his press conference that there was a lot of teams doing that. A lot of teams that knew exactly what they were doing all year.
The rookie cornerback from the Bills said, yeah, Xavier Worthy does this or Rashee Rice does this when guys, if your quality control coach, your quality control coach should notice that. Your wide receiver coach should notice that. Somebody that's not Andy Reid or even Matt Nagy necessarily should notice that before it ever gets to that point, and it wasn't happening down the line. So that's kind of a segue to our next thing, which is there's been several other coaching staff changes, mostly on the offensive side of the ball. But some of those coaches, and this is no slight, but Joe Blameyer was in that article that had a couple of the quotes of like, sir, what are you saying out loud? I'll be curious if that name is not one that we see added to the he's no longer with the organization list. I know he was a super hot name for an OC job a couple of years ago, but that's kind of dissipated into nowhere, and it's never really done anything with it. I don't know how, with all the overchange, that's going to go. Maybe he sticks around, and maybe he's not scared to coach Patrick Mahomes anymore.
Maybe.
But those are the stuff that we've seen with the details and the other stuff over the last couple of years. If anything, EB gives you better of that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff will not be unnoticed or under the rug or whatever. So,
right. Randy, Tom, any other closing thoughts on EB before we move to other coaches?
No, I think I said what I needed to say about EB. So
I'm glad to have him back.
The new regime with the iron fist to come in with some people in shape. So
yeah. Ultimately, I feel like it's just good to see a friendly face back. Like I said, everyone liked EB. No one really wanted to see him go. It's just you wanted to see him get an opportunity somewhere else because we knew he was so good. And so it's good to have him back. It's also kind of, I understand wanting outside hires and new stuff like that, but it's also would be like it's also more satisfying if we go back and win the Super Bowl with Eric Bieniemy as your head coach. It's like, or as your offensive coordinator. Like that's it's I don't know. It just feels more fun to do it that way. I mean, even though that might be a little stupid or selfish of us to think, but
you better be careful, Garrett.
I like EB.
You're gonna give some people a freak out if you say head coach Eric Bieniemy because they go back and win a Super Bowl and then
actually
says, "Here you go, EB. Here's the car keys."
Before we transition, actually, I do want to mention. I want to add to another thing that one of you guys mentioned. The fact that this offensive coordinator job wasn't really the most coveted necessarily, and I think as all of us know, like obviously the offensive coordinator in Kansas City, it's a losing job, right? Because you're not going to get celebrated for any of the good stuff, and you're going to get all the blame, right? Because if anything good happens, it's Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and if anything bad happens, then it's the offensive coordinator is kind of the problem. And there's a lot of people who are really viewing this like the Chiefs should just sell this as a job where you're the offensive coordinator and you can bring your whole new system in, and then you're going to be the head coach in waiting in 2 to 3 years when Andy retires and all this stuff. And people wanted, Mike McDaniel or some of these other younger guys that come in, and like that would be the position of like head coach in waiting. And I don't know how realistic that is. We don't know how much time Andy has left coaching and whatnot, but obviously Eric Bieniemy is a guy that has had a lot of head coaching interest before, has had a lot of different, experiences and whatnot. If you're going to keep a guy around who's loved by his players and loved by Patrick Mahomes to potentially be your head coach of the future, I'm just saying things have to go well for the next couple years for that to even be a possibility. But that if you're concerned that we don't have a future head coach in waiting when Andy retires, this does kind of check that box. I'm just saying. So still gotta climb that that road, and it's not going to be given to him necessarily if he's not performing. But that does, if people are I know there's a lot of people concerned about that, so I wanted to hit on that before we transition to other coaching. So let's talk about some other coaching staff changes that have occurred as of making this on January 20th. There's been a couple notable offensive coaching firings. Most notably, I think we mentioned this on the last episode. Wide receiver coach Connor Embry has been fired. Also, running back coach Todd Pinkston was relieved of his duties. Mark DeLeon, who is an assistant running backs coach, and Kevin Saxton, who is an offensive assistant. So that's all the departures that have been made so far, at least notably on the offense. There's like a position coach or two on the defensive side that left.
Yeah, Whittingham and Indazio.
Exactly.
Yeah, Indazio was a defensive assistant / O-line coach, so he helped with the O-line as well. So.
And Whittingham went to Michigan with his dad.
Has it? Yeah, he was like a linebacker coach or something for us. So
So
there's obviously a couple openings that are still to be filled, and there might be a couple departures still to be had. But there has been one coaching staff hire on top of Eric Bieniemy so far, and that was a new wide receiver coach taking the reins. I believe Mr. Chad O'Shea is a new Chiefs wide receiver coach, a guy that has a lot of wide receiver coach experience, which is something that was very much lacking in our previous wide receiver coach.
Well, that's a nice change.
Yeah, he's been a guy who's been in the league for a very long time. Most notably, he was a wide receiver coach for a very long time in New England for the majority of their dynasty, coaching a lot of guys like Randy Moss and Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola, all those different guys. Wes Welker, I think, might have tailed in there too. A bunch of different guys of that New England dynasty that have had a lot of success. Most notably, he was
little Ocho Cinco.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit of that. He was with the Browns for the past 5 years as a wide receiver coach / passing game coordinator with them. He also had a brief stints with a couple other places, Minnesota. He was an offensive coordinator for 1 year in Miami with not the greatest of success, but he has offensive coordinator experience at least, which is cool, and has a lot of experience. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing when you look at this hire. A lot of experience at the position, a guy who's been around, who's seen a lot of different wide receivers and wide receiver types and gotten a lot of success with some guys. And also, most notably, really not an Andy Reid guy in any way. There's not really any connections to Andy Reid, I don't think. I think he started his coaching career way back in the early 2000s with the Chiefs as an assistant, but that was before Andy Reid's time.
Eric Bieniemy is the tie.
Eric
He
Bieniemy
worked with Eric in Minnesota.
There you go. Yeah. So already you're seeing some impressions of Eric Bieniemy's, new presence there. So Chad O'Shea, welcome to Kansas City. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Who wants to go?
Who wants to go first? Because I'm not going to be very nice. So go ahead.
Well, I'll go first because obviously, everyone is well aware how I felt about Mr. Embry. So I'm happy he is gone. I am happy to see a new face leading that wide receiver room and somebody that has some actual experience coaching the position at a decently high level for a long time. Still trying to figure out exactly how Embry got to where he was, but now that we don't have to worry about that anymore, it's nice to see a seasoned coach come in, take over the room, especially a room that has, for a large part, a very young wide receiver room. So I know there's not a lot of wide receivers even really under contract at the moment, but the ones that are young, Rasheed and, well, who knows if Rasheed's going to be around, but Xavier, hopefully we can get, Taekwon, if we can get him to come back. There's going to be an overhaul in that room. So we need someone who's experienced, who's going to be able to handle that kind of turnover, the additions, get that group to gel and do things the right way. From what I understand in the research I've done on him so far, that he's meticulous when it comes to fundamentals and the basics of the position, which is clearly a lot of things that our wide receiver coach had no idea what those things even were. Clearly, because our wide receivers couldn't do them for the most part. So I guess I'm optimistic. I'm excited for the change. I'm gonna kind of table my level of excitement to see exactly, what the room is going to look like when fall camp comes around after the draft and free agency, to see what he's going to have to work with. But I'm optimistic. I'm not like through the roof optimistic, but I'm excited for a new face, and some new ideas, and we'll see what he can do with the room, whatever it is when it gets there. So.
Yeah. As Kyle makes his return, Tom, what are your thoughts?
If you don't like Connor Embry, or didn't like, for all the reasons that people didn't like Connor Embry, and this news came out before the Eric Bieniemy news officially came out. This gave me a lot of hope, because this is the very opposite of Connor Embry. This is experience. This is attention to detail. This is somebody who knows the position, who has seen the position. This is somebody who's worked in multiple systems. I dug in, and I will also say he's gotten production out of guys who, have struggled elsewhere or weren't as productive. I know it's hard to measure anything that the Browns do or anybody coming out of the Browns system, but
resurrect Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy a couple years.
Jerry Jeudy had his best season under him. There's a couple other guys. One of the things so I went and just did some digging on him. He was the Dolphins offensive coordinator the year that they had Brian Flores as their head coach. And one of the things that they essentially, when they moved on from him, the messaging was that his concepts and stuff was too, like, they were too complicated, it was too much, right? And
fit right in here.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, okay, it sounds like we fit pretty well. But again, going back to what we said about EB and just making sure guys are ready, this is a complete 180 from what we had. As far as a position coach, in this situation, it is exactly what you want it to be. I mean, that's, I don't know, again, people might go, whoa, go get, this person or that person, some other name, but I don't know if there was really a candidate that was going to be, a better answer to the problem that they had previously, which was, again, that lack of attention to detail, lack of professionalism, lack of preparation.
Yeah. And I forgot to mention that, and I do like that he's a former collegiate quarterback at Marshall and Houston, so he's going to bring that quarterback mindset and ability to read defenses and put guys in the right places and have those wide receivers understand what the quarterback's thinking and why they're thinking that way. I think that's going to help them out too. Just let it out, Kyle. Just let it go. Just let it go.
Okay, so I guess I'll start with this. You asked thoughts and whatnot. Could it get worse? Maybe it could. I guess. Hell, no, because the Raiders wide receivers have even developed so much that they were able to send Jacoby Myers to the Jaguars, where he's a beast. So, I don't know, man. I have been talking about Connor Embry probably longer than anybody else in the kingdom when it came to this wide receiver coach conversation. it started like 2 years ago now, almost like 4 weeks into his first year coaching wide receivers. I was like, what the hell is happening? Like, what is going on? And it was a topic almost all of last season. The drops, the incorrect depth of routes, the Xavier Worthy's struggle with and personal vendetta and fight against the sideline and knowing where it is at all times, the lack of focus on basic things, like that if I can see, he should probably be able to see. I'm not big on guys losing their jobs, but that guy should have never had that job to begin with.
Yeah.
He should have never had it. Like Tom said, this is as far in the other direction almost as one can get. He's been coaching wide receivers most of his career. By the way, the year that you're talking about where he was the offensive coordinator with the Dolphins, of course it was too complicated. Tua was trying to run it. How many times is that? I mean, concussions aren't funny, but like he's had enough of them that they're worried about him ever playing again all the time, anytime he gets hit. And eventually, that's going to take a toll. And if you're talking about super complex offenses in the NFL where you have to process that stuff like faster than that doesn't work really great with a guy that's struggling with head problems from
living in a
getting hit too
state
much.
of fog. Yeah,
it's a tough sell, and so okay, not great. But he's also like we talked about the Jerry Jeudy thing. He worked with Randy Moss at one point when he was in New England. He worked with guys like Wes Welker, and yes, Randy Moss was well established by the time he got there. Okay, maybe he learned stuff from Randy Moss. That seems like a good guy to pick up some things to help coach other players with.
They did have a hell of a season that first season of Randy Moss too, if you remember.
Yeah,
hell of a season.
And so,
and let's also not pretend like Randy Moss came in there being Randy Moss. Randy Moss was traded for peanuts because
bad on the Raiders.
He was checked out with the Raiders.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying
everybody checks out with the Raiders.
Yeah, I know there was more to that team than just the wide receiver coach, but that's the guy who's going to be in those meeting rooms with him, right? So yeah.
There are a lot of things that he brings to the table that Connor Embry simply just doesn't have. He just doesn't have it. He never. We talked about earlier. He never played the position. Hell, he never played crack KU's roster other than 2 kick returns, I think, in his entire career. And I don't mind if you never played it, but then in his coaching background, he went from an offensive assistant to coaching some offensive coordinator at the high school level to coaching NFL wide receivers.
I don't even know if he was a coordinator at high school. I think he was just the wide receiver coach.
I think he may have been just the wide receiver coach at the high school.
Coach. Yeah, and said, you know what?
And it's like
he's in the big leagues. And he knows.
And it would be different. And it would have been different if you had, DeAndre Hopkins at the beginning of a year or a super established several veterans at the wide receiver position. You didn't. You had a bunch of kids. And you do with that whatever you will. But that's not exactly a room you just want. That's the blind leading the blind is essentially what that is. I'm sorry. It just is.
Not ideal. Definitely not ideal.
So O'Shea, he gives you a mountain of experience, a record of having success with multiple different types of wide receivers, multiple different wide receivers. And even we joked, he just fits in because his offensive concepts were too extravagant. Well, perfect. You're home. Andy will love that. It'll take 7 weeks to get a free agent wide receiver into the offense, but it will be crazy because you guys are all
yeah. But if when
he hits the field, he'll be prepared.
Yeah. If he is that complicated though and detail oriented. Like he might add some more new thoughts to the room. That's the big thing. Like you're adding a guy who has a lot of experience in a lot of different schemes. Obviously an OC for 1 year, like a passing game coordinator for a lot of years. Like this is a guy who has a very good understanding of football, you would think, right? So like that's just you're adding one more voice who's just even more of a contributor. Like who knows how much, I mean, Connor Embry probably didn't contribute at all in like the big staff meetings. Like this is a guy who can actually contribute. He's not going to just sit there and take notes and be like, all right, guys, so this is kind of pass it down. Like he's going to be
You don't believe in Connor Embry drawing up on bar napkins? No, you didn't think Connor was out there coming up with bar napkin plays? Come on, Garrett, he's got to be able to do that,
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. So happy to have him, Chad O'Shea. Welcome to Kansas City, and TBD on what other positions get added, but obviously there's a little bit of a trend, and this is a good sign that Andy and EB are willing to branch out a little bit and get some new faces. That's the biggest thing to me, is that this is not a familiar hire. You're broadening horizons. You're getting an outside voice in some capacity, and hopefully that contributes more to some of these other position openings. Which there's a couple. Running back coach. We need a new running back coach now. That's going to be a big one for whatever. Obviously the Chiefs running back room is going to need a pretty serious overhaul this offseason as well. You still have Brashard Smith, but on top of that, there's kind of a clean slate. So you're going to need a guy who can come in and get a couple new guys up to speed. And obviously Eric Bieniemy is going to be a big help in that room as just by default. But Kyle, I know you had an idea for another running back coach, another familiar face coming back.
Yes, I will suggest another retread. At the running back position, coach. Guys, Dylan McCullough is not employed because Raiders fired Pete Carroll, so that usually means brand new staff. Dylan McCullough is an excellent running back coach. He proved it in Kansas City when he was here, when Eric was running the offense with Andy. He went to Notre Dame, and it's Audric Estime's pretty good, right? Well, he coached him. Jeremiah Love is excellent, right? Yeah, he coached him too. He's very good at what he does. Hell, if his offensive line in Vegas could have blocked at all, Ashton Jeanty would have had a year. And I'm not telling you Ashton Jeanty's a bad running back, but having Dylan McCullough, who knows what it looks like to be a good running back in the NFL, isn't a bad thing. And we talked earlier about how EB can help that running back room, bringing in Dylan, who he's familiar with, who Pat's familiar with, who I think Pop had Dylan as one of his coaches. When I think Pop's rookie year was Dylan's last year here.
Might have been, yeah. Let me look it up.
And that's not a bad thing. And again, you may be looking at new guys in the running back room anyway.
This last year was 2020. So
just missed him. Wait, that means you would have had Kareem then.
Yeah, you see from 2018 to 2020, so he would have had a little bit.
He had Kareem his rookie year instead.
Kareem's rookie year.
When he led the league in rushing.
Sophomore year was 18, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't that his big crazy year? That was Dylan's
running back. He led the league in rushing that year, yeah.
2018, so didn't he get dismissed halfway through the year?
He was leading the league in rushing up until his dismissal, if I'm not mistaken.
That might be true.
And then he did lead the league the year before, which would have been
a really good year.
And I think Dylan was on staff, but not the running back coach that year.
No, he was at USC that year.
He was at USC that year. That's right.
Yeah,
you should recognize Dylan.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know. Yeah, he's been USC a couple times. Yeah,
but Dylan is a guy that if you bring him in with Eric, you have an established running game set of coaches that know how to produce an actual functional running game. You just do. And no offense to Todd Pinkston, but Todd Pinkston played wide receiver for Andy Reid for a reason.
Yeah.
I believe it was his first foray into running backs was the last couple of years as the running back coach.
Yeah, the past 2 years. They had Connor Embry. They said, what, we got to make space for this Connor Embry kid. Yeah, so we're gonna scoot you over to running backs. It's a good idea.
Yeah, the guy that played wide receiver in your offense for a decade should definitely coach the running backs, while some guy whose best call was being a running back-ish at KU coaches wide receivers. I mean, you can go pull up the episodes. There was like 3 or 4 in a row where
we covered it.
ranted.
I mean, all of last season was pretty much all just like the Connor Embry show.
Dylan McCullough, and hey, draft Jeremiah Love at 9, and there you go. If you really twist my arm, and Bain is available at 9, you can take Bain at 9 as long as you get Jadarian Price at like 34
Bain train
or whatever.
Kyle was all aboard the Bain train.
I just think the kid's different. I don't care about his arm length. I really don't.
Exactly.
He's freaky.
Preach, Kyle.
But
you guys know my opinion on arm length and how much it really matters. Like you're telling me
legitimately
this matter of
Randy, I've been told that much matters my whole life, so I don't know.
Some instances, maybe.
Depends on whose input.
I think in Bain's case, I don't think it matters at all. But that's neither here nor there. We've got plenty of draft talk to go. I know.
So, like I said, there's the running back coach position. There's also the assistant to the running back coach. So that spot will be interesting. The rest of the position group hires, nobody's really out here digging through a whole lot of candidate lists. This will be guys that they're comfortable with, that either EB has met along his pathway or Andy has from another coach who's got this guy. Like, that's kind of how the position coach stuff works, especially. And I'm not talking about the head position coaches. I'm talking about like the assistant running backs coach and stuff like that. That's the position where you can get coaches to learn how to be that position coach. Like the assistant running back coach, you get him more NFL experience to be eventually a running back coach, not coaching high school wide receivers at a high school no one's hardly ever heard of, and then you're all of a sudden coaching NFL receivers. Mm-hmm. So
maybe even some former players
interested in those.
Wouldn't mind seeing a couple former players maybe get added to some of those roles, just to assistant roles. Good to get the guys trained, and then also kind of adds like a veteran presence.
Adds some experience.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how the rest of the coaching hires turn out for Kansas City, but that's kind of the gist of it for our hires. Let's touch base real quick on a couple other moves around the league that are just kind of fun and interesting to talk about. Obviously, this coaching cycle, if you haven't been paying attention, one of the crazier ones, I think, in recent memory. There's been a lot of coaches that have been there for really long times that have been moved on from. Obviously, John Harbaugh released from the Ravens. He has now been signed to be the new Giants head coach. So that's very exciting. Don't have to deal with Harbaugh in our conference anymore, so that's neat. Obviously, Mike Tomlin stepped down from the Steelers. That's still an opening. But most notably, that I want to definitely mention the fact that a very familiar conference rival decided to part ways with their head coach. The Bills moved on from Sean McDermott after the Bills had another tough, heartbreaking divisional playoff loss in which Josh Allen and the team had 5 turnovers and ultimately just kind of got their butt swept by the Bo Nix Denver Broncos and Sean Payton. And that ended up being...
Wasn't this supposed to be the year now that Josh Allen was be able to?
I thought this was the year. People were saying, "Hey, this is the year."
He didn't have to play Lamar. He didn't have to play Joe.
Yeah,
well, he hadn't had to play Joe in 3 years.
The division wide open.
He hadn't had to play
wide open, and guess what? They still didn't get it done. So they moved on from Sean McDermott, which was a very not really shocking, I think, but it was it definitely got some people talking. So. I know for certain that the Bills have always been a pretty good coach team when we play them, especially in the regular season for sure. But that's the nature of the NFL. You can only go so many heartbreaking playoff losses where it's like, all right, we need to maybe move on from this guy, and that's what the Bills opted to do. So kind of crazy.
You guys think he gave another one of his 9/11 comparison speeches before this game, or
no? Well, maybe before the game. But I know he just.
Well, I just wondered because Josh Allen turned the ball over 4 times and tried to turn it over 2 additional times, and then James Cook fumbled too. So I just was curious we were talking about. I was wondering if we were talking about teamwork amongst those who planned the. If you're not familiar, I'm not making that up. That actually happened in like 2019.
Yeah.
That's not me making a story up about Mr. McDermott. He actually did use that.
They had some good teamwork
in a team meeting. Yeah, you guys should mimic them. And somehow he wasn't fired for that, but the performance that they put on Sunday against the Broncos was apparently worse.
Yeah, that was the one that broke the camel's back. I think a lot of people thought this should have maybe happened a year or two ago. Maybe I know a lot of Bills fans did for sure. They've been very unhappy with the losing in the playoffs every year. So
yes, and somehow they managed to promote Brandon Beane who's the guy who's given him a roster that's gotten progressively worse every year for the last 3 years. But hey. When they fired him mostly because, well, not mostly, but in part because they had a meeting with him before the playoffs where I guess he just told Bean and the owner, yeah, this is all the reasons that our team sucks and the roster sucks and all this stuff. And they said, you know what, I don't like that. Bean's doing actually a great job giving you Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir for your wide receivers and whatnot. He's doing a great job. Come on. Bro,
Gabe
Kyer Elam was the first round draft pick.
You got Gabe Davis again. Come on, why aren't you successful?
You guys remember the Kyer Elam pick and how well that went?
Elam, yeah. Tre'Davious White is another notable guy that had.
Keon Coleman was a healthy scratch, like 6 games Sunday. This year, but when you can promote Brandon Beane to president of football operations and general manager, you just have to do it. So I look. The McDermott thing is the least surprising thing after the way that they played, because if Josh Allen is even somewhat functionable in that game, they win. Without a doubt. They gave him 10 points in 30 seconds.
Didn't matter.
And then you look around and they just let Harbaugh go and Tomlin step down so he can pick his landing spot next year after he does TV for a year now that Matt Ryan is the Falcons president of football. And so you got the 2 longest tenured. The next one after that's Andy, I think. And then McDermott was the one after that as far as tenure goes, maybe McVay. But they're pretty close.
I think actually the next longest tenured guy right now is Zach Taylor, who he's somehow the guy who survived all of the firings of the AFC North. He's the guy who survived somehow, which is crazy.
Never, ever underestimate how cheap the Bengals are. Never. Never underestimate.
A lot to do with the not wanting to pay 2 coaches at once.
Yeah.
Never underestimate how cheap Mike Brown and the Bengals are. Never.
Yeah.
But the McDermott firing, which I think McDermott knew he was getting fired, hence the reason the press conference he was standing up for Buffalo, and then he called the reporter from the plane to say more shit about the refs.
McDermott might have had an inkling. I don't think the Bills social media team had any idea, because boy, they were parading him like he was the savior of Buffalo for coming out with comments.
I can't believe the team account posted that, but
YouTube too. Official YouTube had to put out the press conference clip, a whole YouTube video just for that.
So that one makes not surprising. So Harbaugh to the Giants to then immediately to immediately opposite Brandon Beane, Joe Shane is one of the funniest things you'll see. Harbaugh was like, "Yeah, I'll coach your team, but I'm not answering to that guy."
Yeah.
And
then Joe Shane
in his press conference today. Oh my god. No, that's just on paper.
Yeah,
it's just on paper. Yeah. It's a collaborative effort.
I'm not owned.
Yeah. No, man, it sucks because Josh Allen is a really fun player, a very talented player.
The most talented ever, Tom. Just ask Mike Greenberg from ESPN.
Yeah, Mike Greenberg, who has the same agent as Josh Allen. Totally understand.
So does Dan Orlovsky, by the way. You cannot tell me Dan Orlovsky and Josh Allen do not share an agent.
Yeah. I just think, man, it's such a good rivalry, and obviously I don't want them to beat the Chiefs, but the NFL is better when they're playing better. So, but it's the same thing. There's no excuses, right? This was the year. This was, this was your easiest path to a Super Bowl, and it's not even just that his team lost; it's that he actively contributed to his team losing. The turnovers, the misplays, all that. And they're going to make everybody wants to focus on the one play, and I get that, and it sucks. Honestly, it was definitely an interception, but
it was definitely an interception. I don't know how that's
a
conversation.
You turn the ball over 5 times, that you just statistically you're not going to win a game, and whatever you want to talk about it. When you talk about Mahomes and his postseason legacy, his stats in the postseason in terms of not turning the ball over, pretty damn good. So,
do you want to know how many turnovers Mahomes has in the postseason?
I'm gonna guess 9.
6.
No. He
7.
has, I believe it's 42 touchdowns to 3 interceptions and like
Is that
2 or 3 fumbles for everything but the Super Bowl. Yes, the way, everything but the Super Bowl.
I was about to say he had like 2 in one Super Bowl one time, so I feel like that's already kind of
okay.
That's what you're saying.
Right. It was from I was listening. Obviously, Nick was talking about the Bills stuff today on the What's Right podcast and whatnot. But guys, you can't. And you know the most frustrating part? Josh is the only person that has been like, I fucked this up. He's the only one. He's the only one.
Mm-hmm. Everyone else still crying about
there was an apology tour for him on social media and on regular traditional media from a ton of analysts.
Yeah.
And I'll use analysts. If you're listening in podcast form, there were air quotes around analysts.
Use that liberally.
And I get Deion Dawkins, it's his teammates, and he's not going to say, hey, my quarterback just cost us the game. But, guys, they were crying after that game because they knew this was the best shot they had, and that's what happened. Mm-hmm. And they also knew that this was probably the last run through for most of this core because it has to be. There has to be – it can't just be McDermott. There's got to be some sweeping changes through that organization. I don't know how that happens when you decide that you're promoting Brandon Beane and keeping him.
Really gonna change. But, they might just bring back
Brian. Right now, Joe Brady is tentatively your leading head coaching.
Yeah, you got Joe Brady, maybe Brian Daboll.
Matt Nagy's available.
Matt Nagy, yeah. Matt Nagy's a great coach. He'd be great up there with Josh Allen. I'd agree. Yeah.
But this is the stuff when all the conversations about Andy from this year make my head explode. It's the same thing with the Josh and Patrick conversation. Guys, one of them has earned the benefit of the doubt, and one of them hasn't. And you know who that is? The one that's won all the shit. When you do it, and you do it consistently to boot, and you prove it, if you have a bad year, we're human, and things happen, and okay, don't have another one. Now, if we have another one next year, then the conversation can start the following year.
They're still going to coddle him. Come on, they're still going to coddle him every single time. The conversation around Josh Allen after he lost that game, poor Josh Allen. He lost again.
But I was referring to the Andy stuff with the Andy firing stuff. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop. Mm-hmm. Stop with it. They've earned the cachet to be like, we've proven it. Josh and Sean McDermott haven't.
No.
There's about six different ways this joke has been written, but they're calling him Agent 007. And you can pick what you want your zeros to be, but it's 7 years of playoff failure in a row.
Yeah. Poor Josh Allen though.
He is 8-7 overall in the playoffs. Poor
Josh Allen.
He has 15 turnovers.
Oh, just hate to see that for the guy. Hate to see that. Hate to see such a guy, such a player, go out there and just lose in the playoffs consistently. Man, how heartbreaking.
And sometimes you're right. It wasn't his fault that they lost in the playoffs. It was the defense or special teams. And you know who that?
It was the coin toss. It's the coin toss's fault.
And the coin toss and the measurement and the spot and the overtime.
After that rule was changed for him, I believe I saw 0-3 overtime.
And he had the ball.
Good thing we changed that rule for him. For real. Yeah, good thing we changed that rule.
This one, he had the ball. They stopped Denver. He had the ball.
Here you go, Josh Allen.
They didn't even need a touchdown. They needed a field goal, and they got nothing.
Yeah.
You know what they got? Picked off at the 10-yard line.
Big old L. Yeah. So that was my favorite coaching news recently. A couple other. Well, before we get out of here, we've gone a little long. We appreciate everyone rocking with us. A couple other pieces of things around the coaching cycle. Most notably, in the Chiefs' case, the Chargers hired Mike McDaniel to be their offensive coordinator, which is a very interesting development. I know a lot of people wanted to see Mike McDaniel in KC, and now he's going to be over in LA with the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert, going from the 5th overall pick in that draft to the 6th overall pick from Tua to Justin Herbert. That is an upgrade. So shout out to McDaniel for getting that upgrade and taking like a 1-year stopgap or two before he gets another head coaching job probably. But I know a lot of Chiefs fans are going to be pretty upset whenever we play the Chargers and if they have any shroud of success, which is still not guaranteed, but definitely adds to more caliber. I mean, the Chiefs have had pretty good luck versus the Dolphins the past couple of years, so I'm not sure if I'm super worried about it. But that is a notable hire in the coaching cycle that is going to LA instead of taking some other head coaching job or whatnot. So
one of the rare instances where they don't trade the quarterback, they just trade the coach. Because remember, there has been conversation forever since they were drafted that, well, if Herbert would have gone to Miami and Tua would have gone to the Chargers, what would it look like? Well, guess what? We're going to find out.
You might see that now.
There's some risk involved on this one for me, for Mike McDaniel, because Justin Herbert is what if man. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, he's the biggest hypothetical winning quarterback of all time. He's won every award and every playoff game in hypotheticals. It's like Alabama in hypothetical games. They're undefeated. But if Justin Herbert is decent to good in the regular season, which he has been for years, and then does his playoff thing again, is it Justin Herbert or is it Mike McDaniel? And then again, if it is Justin Herbert, that's not good for Herbert, especially and the Chargers, because I think they're paying him pretty nicely at this point, or will be here real soon.
Yeah.
If it's Daniels, then how do you get a coaching job if everybody blames you? A head coaching job if everybody blames you for him being mediocre in the playoffs? Because remember, it's never Justin Herbert's fault. He is what if man. He and Josh Allen have similar PR agencies.
Yeah.
So, hey, maybe it's great for the Chargers. I'll be curious because Harbaugh is a ground and pound. I want to run the ball a bunch. I don't want to throw the ball a bunch. And Mike uses the ground game, and he's from the Shanahan tree, and I get that. But he's going to want to throw the ball with Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how the philosophies meld on that. Harbaugh is not an offensive coordinator, obviously, so that helps. He's more of a defensive guy. Again, why that job was probably more attractive than, say, the Chiefs' offensive coordinating position, because the opposite is true for Andy Reid and him. So, but again, like Garrett said, I'm not terribly scared of Mike McDaniel's offense. The last couple of times the Chiefs have seen it, they've shoved it down his throat. So, I mean, Tyreek Hill is still picking himself up from that game where L'Jarius Sneed just shoved him around all day. And I love Cheetah. I do. But L'Jarius and them bullied him a couple of different times. So, and Trent did it once. Trent did it the next year in London or whatever it was when Brian Cook took it to the house after Trent just took it from Tyreek. So,
Frankfurt game.
I mean, it's fun for the Chargers. I'll be very curious to see how it works with him and Harbaugh and if Herbert actually does get better. But until Herbert, much like until Josh does anything in the playoffs and makes a Super Bowl, until Herbert wins a playoff game, more than one in his 6 or 7 tries that he's had now, it doesn't change much for me with them.
Yeah, Herbert's had plenty of opportunities with multiple head coaches and multiple coordinators in different systems, and he always seems to just get in his own way at the worst possible time.
Charger, one might say? One might say Justin Herbert Chargers, like as well as any of the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is a verb. A valid verb.
Literally though, that team has won so many preseason Super Bowls on just their roster and their talent.
Even from radio hosts in Kansas City.
Yeah. There's literally no reason that the Chargers have not been more successful with the amount of talent they've had on that team. So, I mean, there's only a few heads that can fall on. And right now, with the coaches have come and gone, and there's been one constant, and I think it's Herbert. So,
it's a lot like Buffalo. Josh doesn't have any more excuses after this.
Right.
Yeah.
I know that they're going to still give him 75 more, but legitimately at this point, if it don't work now, brother, it's you, Doc. You're the only piece that is still here. Like, you're it.
Yeah. All right, so that's that. The last piece of relevant coaching news that even kind of pertains to the Chiefs a little bit, I think, the Titans hired Robert Saleh to be their head coach. That is notable for the Chiefs, mostly because that was the job that Matt Nagy was most in connections and rumored for. He had a couple interviews with them, and a lot of people thought that he might get that job, and said they go with Saleh, even though Nagy had the connection with Mike Borgonzi, the Titans guy, who's in one of their roles now.
He's GM.
Yeah, GM. Yeah, one of them roles over there in Tennessee, the GM role maybe. So that's just notable. So we'll see where Matt Nagy lands. It's already pretty confirmed that he's not going to return to KC no matter what. So we'll see if he takes another one of these head coaching job openings, as there's still a good amount of them left. Cleveland, the Raiders, the Cardinals, the Bills, the Ravens, the Steelers. I think that's all the available ones still.
Miami officially hired.
They have hired Jeff
Hafley.
Yeah, Hafley, whatever his name. Yeah.
Hafley. Hafley.
Yeah. Makes me think of Jeff Hafley. Sure. So that's another name. But other than that, the rest of the openings are still available, and we will see where Nagy lands. If not a head coach, he'll likely probably get an offensive coordinator role somewhere. I floated out. Maybe he's even the offensive coordinator in Tennessee, since there was such a connection and whatnot with Robert Saleh being a defensive guy. Who knows? Doesn't really matter for KC, because we're on to bigger and brighter things with Mr. Eric Bieniemy coming back to town. And we will see how that progresses throughout the rest of this offseason. So that's all we've got for you tonight. We appreciate everyone for rocking with us through this one, as we talked about a little bit of coaching stuff, not really football. Obviously we're all still used to talking about real football going on this time, but unfortunately for the Chiefs, it's not that year. Next year we're going to be back to talking about AFC Championship matchups and whatnot, but we got to get back to that summit. So a lot of offseason left to talk about. A lot of free agency and draft stuff and coaching hires, and there'll be a lot more of it. So we appreciate you all for rocking with us. As always, be sure to check us out at Kingdom Says Pod, Facebook, X, and Instagram. Check us out, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts at. We will be there. But especially check us out on YouTube. You can see our beautiful faces. You can see Tom's cat. You can see all kinds of good stuff that you're not privy to on just audio platforms. So with that, that's all we've got for you. Have a great rest of your day, week, whatever it is, wherever you are. And we will see you guys on the next episode of The Kingdom Says.